Well, hello and welcome to our talk today, which is hosted by the European Short Film Audience Awards. This is a network that comprises a total of 10 festivals, and we are leading up to deciding who's going to get the final audience award, which is given to the most popular film voted by different audiences in all of the festivals. And here with me, I have a very special guest, and unfortunately, for us, we only have one of the two directors of this amazing film, but please, David, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for this introduction. And yeah, that's unfortunate. We are two. I am David Dautel, and the other co-director is Vasco Sá. He is unfortunately not available to be here with us. But this is our fourth film together. We've been making films for over 10 years now together. And obviously I can't speak for both of us because we are used to doing this, although we are not used to presenting films alone, actually. So this is one of the few times.
I see.
We are presenting Garrano. It's a short animated film, and it's a film that follows the story of both a young boy and a horse, and their relation to the landscape and especially to fire.
Well, good to have you here, David. My name is Savina Petkova. I'm a critic, and I'm here representing cortfilm.be, the co-host for our talk today. And I think I'll just start with a part of your introduction of the film. So can you tell me a little bit more about the Garrano horse? I know it's an ancient and now kind of endangered species, almost mystical, the way you presented in the film too. Was that at the project's core from the very beginning, or was it the forest fires in Portugal a few years back?
Well, actually, the first spark of this film, and this word is not specifically intended, but it makes some sense. It's actually the fire itself. The fire as an element, and that's I think where all this project came from. And when we started wondering about why we were so interested in this element, even graphically, how to make it into an animated film and how to explore it visually, we inevitably ended up thinking about fire and how we relate to it in Portugal specifically. Mm-hmm. And because we deal with forest fires every summer here in Portugal, that eventually led us in a very direct way to this theme. On the other hand, the Garrano horse showed up in the middle of this investigation, and as we grew on our interest in fire, the Garrano horse appeared very quickly because it's based on the same regions that we were interested in the north of Portugal. Well, and when we talk about fire, we think about wildness, and we think about how wild it can be and how uncontrollable it can be. And the horse just resonated as something that we really needed to explore, because it's a horse that's been here in these specific regions before humans were actually here. And so he was here before us. And as soon as humans established themselves here, the horse became like something that the humans took part of, and he became a working horse for several centuries. And for us, there was this very interesting connection between this, how to tame a wild animal, and at the same time, how to deal and how to manipulate something that's so wild as fire. And for us, these were the two key concepts, I think, for creating this film.
And the animation itself is incredible to look at. It's so alive. There's something about it that almost pulsates with life. And I wanted to ask about the role of light, and how do you go about it to represent this light that is drenching every frame in it? And how did you stop at that particular, the role of light in connection to fire, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Well, for us, this is a work in progress, and we still feel that there is something more to explore visually in our films. Since the first one to this one, we've been looking for something that's, I would say that it's more unconscious than conscious, but there is something to that specific moment when we work on the light of the project. So obviously it comes from a first starting point where we paint the backgrounds, and there's always this concern about where the light comes in, how we're going to represent it, and how it can enhance the feeling of an atmosphere, because that's sometimes more than what we are looking for in every shot. And and for us, there is one very specific moment of the production of the films that we always dive into the project even more, maybe from before, which is the compositing part, when we mix everything together. And here we actually, I think that when you bring out the light preoccupation or intention, it's actually where we lose most of our time, is then composing the characters and the background and creating this, I wouldn't say three-dimensional space, because that's not what we are looking for. All the film is drawn, it's 2D and hand-drawn animation. But at the same time, it's interesting for us that from a drawing and from a painting, you can have this sense of space and the surrounding. This also involves the sound, for example. And for us, it's really important, this part where we tend to want to immerse ourselves in this place with these people. And there is something here that, I don't know, again, I would say that this is more unconscious, and I think it's something that we look from the inside more than in a very rational way, I would say.
Yeah, I appreciate this answer quite a lot. And I think I want to ask something that's directly related to the way you described it. Your work as co-directors, it has this quality that is, it involves a lot of realism, but also it plays with fiction. And there are ways that you can describe what you do as documentary, but docufiction too. There's something very real and tangible about them. And for example, Garrano deals with topics of subjugation, loss, environmental dangers, these kind of heavy topics. So do you think, if you have to guess, for example, do you think audiences resonate more with the realistic elements of the storytelling, or do they tend to go more for the fictional parts of it?
I wouldn't say, I understand your relation to well, when you talk about documentary, we never think of it as documentary, but we definitely think of it as if there is this anthropological part for our films. And that definitely is, because that's something that really concerns us. When we think about these places, although they don't exist, we portray them as a mixture or like a collage of very, very different places that we've actually been to, and people we've talked to, and people we've known. So there is some kind of approach on the process that's similar as to what you would have done if you wanted to make a documentary. But the end result, or what we are looking for in the end, is a fiction. And I would say that audiences will relate to, I would say, both things. But there is this aspect, this visual aspect of the film, that really strikes some of the audiences, and we feel that sometimes it actually happens something that's, for us, it's a bit curious, because sometimes it almost stops people from talking to us about the theme, and we are very we stop the conversation on the barrier of like the visual impact of the scenes and the animation and the direction eventually. But at the same time, the themes are strong. So eventually, I think that these things take some time. And when we have the chance to talk to audiences for a little longer, I think things really start to get interesting. And that's, for us, it's really an important part. When we share a film, we also are looking for a dialogue, that extends beyond the film. I think the film can be an experience for a moment of introspection, a moment of reflection, and people can think of things, and then we can talk about them. Short films are a bit, sometimes there is little time for us to have these conversations, but when we have the chance, we really love to have them.
No, I absolutely agree. But I just wanted to ask you a follow-up question. Do you mean that audiences usually tend to ask first about the visual elements that were striking to them, and ask them, oh, how you made this, how you made that, for example, the kind of questions of the craft, in order to maybe repress the questions on the heavier topics?
It's your word, repress. but but it's an interesting word, actually, because I think sometimes we get stuck a little bit on the formal aspect. But I really understand that, because sometimes it's almost also mysterious for us how we get to the end result of a specific shot, because We usually say this as more as a joke, that we work on the compositing with the compositing softwares in the wrong way. And actually that creates some kind of mysteries because it's not really obvious, but we use the same tools as everyone else. So there's nothing very special on the tools that we use to make the films. But at the same time, this sometimes becomes like a very long conversation regarding this. And it's interesting. I'm not saying it's not, because I think it is. It has to do with the handcraft of doing things, actually. But at the same time, when it's, as I was saying, then we can tend to these conversations. In Portugal, for example, I feel that there is a bit more, well, it's a bit more quickly to jump into the fire subject, for example, because it's something that audiences are completely related to. And here this resonates immediately with people. When we went to present the film to several festivals away from Portugal internationally, it's a lot more mysterious, because this act, this very immoral act, that's obviously immoral, there is this very, there is a lot of curiosity about, but why would you, why does this happen? And that's exactly what we are looking for. It's exactly this question, because that's what we have here in Portugal. It's a question, it's not an answer. We don't have an answer for this. This just happens every summer. And for us, this film was more of this question. And when we get to talk to the audiences about this, is, I think, where the film really creates a connection.
No, I think this is really great. I think it's a perfect note to end on, because actually that was also my last question that you just answered right now. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Same.